My name is Max Skinner. I'm a community development manager here at Movember.
What inspired you to get involved with Movember?
So it came from a personal connection, a loss, unfortunately, as many of my colleagues have experienced. I have been touched by some of the causes that we represent. About 10 years ago, unfortunately, I lost my mother to suicide, and then shortly after, I lost a fraternity brother to suicide as well. So I wanted to obviously give back to a cause that means a lot to me and help other people that have experienced something similar and just turn that horrible experience into something positive. That's all we really can do in this life.
So, what is Movember?
Movember is, believe it or not, it's a year-round charitable organization. We're the leading charity dedicated to men's health. A lot of people think Movember is just a month-long social media hashtag, but it's actually a year-round operation, a global operation. We're a 501c3 nonprofit based out of Melbourne, Australia, is where the headquarters is where it was started. But we also have offices in London, Toronto, New York, and Los Angeles, where I'm based. Movember is dedicated to raising funds for prostate cancer, testicular cancer, and men's suicide prevention and mental health.
Yeah, with the mental health, I know I live with bipolar disorder too, and I'm trying to be as open as I can be to, help others tell their own stories. But uh, how is it, helping men just talk about mental health?
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's not a one size fits all issue, and
Right.
I wish we had all the solutions. But to your point, at the end of the day, it's all about having open conversations, having dialogues like this, being vulnerable, and kind of wearing your emotions on your sleeves. It sounds easier said than done, but as men, we tend to put a guard up and shove our emotions down until they bubble up in a negative way down the line. And so you here at Movember, we've been shouting from the rooftops for 2 decades now that men need to be more vulnerable, be more like women, and talk about their emotions and check in with their friends and seek support and be a little more proactive about their health. That's ultimately what Movember is all about at its core. Obviously, it's easier said than done. Luckily, the whole narrative around mental health has become a little more universally acceptable to talk about over the last 10 years. But unfortunately, the suicide rate amongst men in particular continues to climb. In fact, 3 out of 4 suicides in the US are made by men, which is 75%, which is an alarming and
Yeah.
sobering statistic, but just speaks to kind of the crisis that we're experiencing as men internally. And obviously, there's a lot more work to be done.
What has the feedback been on the mental health side?
Um, I think it's tricky. It's twofold in a sense where men recognize that they need to be again a little more proactive
Yeah.
and vulnerable, but at the same time, resources need to be a little more convenient and affordable.
Yeah.
One biggest pain point that we hear within our community is that traditional therapy either isn't working or it's not convenient and affordable enough for men to take advantage of it. So a lot of men are they're turning to more holistic approaches, whether it's uh, therapeutic ways of like running, meditation, alternative forms of food, mushroom coffee, you name it. So I think men are in the choices that they're making recently. It's very evident that again traditional forms of therapy might not necessarily be working, and we need to kind of lower that barrier to entry so that it's a little more affordable and accessible to men that might be struggling.
How does helping others help your own healing process?
It's a great question. I was actually thinking about this on the drive over this morning, ironically. Yeah, after what I went through with my mom's suicide, and unfortunately, I was the one to discover her, which, as you can
Oh,
imagine, for a 21-year-old kid, completely turned my world upside down and was incredibly traumatic to say the least. And I struggled with it for years. And honestly, it wasn't until I participated in this this local 5K when I was living in Boston at the time, for this amazing organization called Samaritans that raises money for suicide prevention in New England. And I ran their 5K, and once I crossed that finish line, I was brought to tears and emotions because I was part of a community that like understood my pain, right? And that inspired me to get involved with nonprofit work, specifically for mental health and suicide prevention, and being able to share my story, my grief, and what I went through allowed me to process my mom's passing in a way that I would have never expected. And I had so many people coming out of the woodworks, random people on social media reaching out to me, thanking me for sharing my story. And it helped them, I guess, get through whatever they were going through. And for me, again, that was just massive for my healing process, just to feel like I was, one, part of something bigger than myself, and two, being able to help people that had been through a similar experience.
And with working with Movember, what is it like working with people with a similar mission?
It's amazing. It's refreshing. As I mentioned, like a lot of my colleagues have been touched by some of the causes. There's a reason we all work here, and being able to work for a purpose-driven, mission-oriented organization and company is everything to me. Like, it's so rewarding, and especially this time of year during Movember, some of the stories of our community members that we hear and some of the impact and change that we've made that we can see firsthand and experience is more valuable than gold. So it's a fun organization. We try to keep it light. We try to meet men where they're at, where they're most comfortable. But at the end of the day, it's also a serious cause, and our community, really puts everything into perspective.
You just had a good point there with it's a fun organization, and it is. It's always entertaining. But how important is it to, be a little lighthearted, to talk about, heavy topics?
Yeah, I think it's really important. Again, like, we try to meet men where they're at, whether it's sporting game, at a local bar, trivia night, you name it. Like, these are serious topics, but as we talked about at the top of the hour, like, men don't necessarily feel comfortable talking about this stuff,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to their own health. So trying to keep it light, but at the same time, trying to shine a light on how serious these conversations are and how proactive men need to be with their health. It's a fine line, and it's kind of a nice hybrid, a nice mix that Movember has been really good at for 20 years now. But yeah, I think it's really important.
What do you do to help your own mental health?
I love to run. I think running is my form of therapy. I
Yeah.
have the luxury of living in Southern California, so I can just kind of pop down to the beach and run by the beach. And after my runs, I'll sit on the beach and just look at the water, meditate for 10 minutes, and that really grounds me. I practice the 4x4 breathing meditation method, and a therapist taught me that after my mom passed. I was obviously dealing with a lot of anxiety and stress and panic attacks, and the 4x4 breathing really helped me kind of center myself and ground my feet in. And then playing with my dog, honestly, like, he just gets me out of my own head. He puts things into perspective and allows me to kind of be silly and liberates me in a way. So I always encourage folks to find their own form of therapy, whether it's running, playing with your dog, journaling, meditating. It can be something as silly as any of those things. And as long as you're trying to be present in the moment and getting your head out of your day-to-day BS, I think for me, that's the ultimate form of therapy.
What would you say to anyone going through a tough time?
It's as cliche as it sounds. You really aren't alone. Like,
Yeah.
it's easier said than done in those moments, and I've been there where it feels like you're stuck in a hole and you
Yeah.
can't dig yourself out, and the last thing you want to do in those moments is to talk to someone. But everyone has a support system. Everyone has a family. Whether you're alienated yourself or not, reach out to your friends and just let them know that you're struggling. And vice versa. If you're a friend and notice one of your friends or loved ones struggling, check in with them, reach out to them, ask them how they're doing. And if they say they're fine, but you know they're not fine, press them a little bit, go visit them in person and acknowledge that you recognize that they're struggling. You'd be surprised how impactful that can be on someone's life. And just at the end of the day, just listen. You know, we're a lot of times you feel like you need to be a therapist for your friend or for your family member, but they're looking for someone just to listen at the end of
Yeah.
the day and to hear them out rather than solicited advice. So yeah, just check in with your friends, and we have a we have a mantra here. It's called ALEC, ALEC, the ALEC model. It means ask, listen, encourage action, and change. Change your friend's environment, change their perspective, and just sit there and listen. Because ultimately, that's what they want.
Yeah. Sometimes just like a high five is all you need sometimes.
Just encouragement, yeah. Encourage change, encourage impact, and just let them know that you're there. 100%.
So, where do you want to see the Movember mission in the next, say, few years?
Where do I want to see it?
Yes.
Um, Personally, I would like us to get a little more hands-on with preventative care. Um, we tend to, and don't get me wrong, we fund some amazing community health projects and programs. I think over the last 20 years, Movember has raised over $1 billion for men's
Wow.
health and has funded over 1,300 men's health projects, community health projects worldwide. As part of that, we tend to kind of meet men at the post-op journey, specifically with prostate and testicular cancer. So we try to help them kind of get through the post-op procedure journey of life and help them feel like they're part of a community with some different programs like True North and some other research programs that we fund. On the mental health side, again, I'd like to see us get a little more proactive with preventative care. We tend to outsource a lot of our mental health resources and point people to other hotlines or crisis hotlines or crisis resources in other organizations. Personally, I think we should do a better job of keeping those resources, mental health resources, in house and keep it a little more internal in terms of preventative care. Um, and yeah, I think that's where I would like to see the organization go over the next 5 years, personally.
How can people reach out and learn more?
Just go to us.movember.com and sign up, register. Um, Someone just hit the gong. I don't know if you can hear people clapping behind us, but we must
Yeah.
have just hit a big milestone. So yeah, just you go to Movember.com, register, sign up. Even if you don't plan on fundraising, you can be entered into our communications funnel to learn more about the programs that we fund or other ways to get involved other than growing out a mustache. There are different ways that people can get involved to support.
Well, I did when I was doing my research, I actually saw photos of you participating. What is it like to participate?
Oh, really? That's funny.
Yeah.
It's fun, man. My first exposure to Movember was about, let's see, I'm going to outdate myself here, but 12 years ago, my fraternity participated, and at the time, we just wanted to like have an excuse to grow facial hair, probably to attract the ladies. And it's amazing how life comes full circle. And then, a decade later, I've been touched by these causes, and it really means a lot to me. And it's fun growing out the mustache. Like my wife liked it enough last year where she let me grow it for 3 months. So it's funny. I always, we always say like even if you grow a thin or crappy mustache, like those start the best conversations, and
Yeah.
you'd be surprised how many cool conversations and people you impact along the way. But it's a fun experience.